Good evening, and welcome to a live broadcast of the city elections for mayor, city councilor, and school committee here in the city of Brockton. My name is Larry Curtis, and I'll be your anchor this evening. And joining me today on the anchor desk to my left is former school committee member Richard Bath from Ward 2. Richard was also the former chair of the Brockton Democratic City Committee and is currently a professor at LaSalle College. Used to be a junior college at one time.
Yeah, like about 100 years ago, Larry.
That's about our age, isn't it,
well,
about that?
yeah.
And to my right is a familiar face around the city of Brockton is Tom Minichiello. Tom is the vice chair of the Brockton School Committee as well as the Ward 1 representative on the school committee. Gentlemen, welcome.
Welcome.
Well, thank you.
Thank
Tom,
you.
You know, I like the glasses being at the edge of your nose like that. Can you put those back on again?
Yeah, the problem is, I now need them.
Look at this, the senior statesman of the school committee, Tom Minichiello. Look great.
Great to be here.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Good to be
Thanks.
heckled
Well,
at the desk.
It's fantastic to be here. We want to, obviously Mark Lindy, a familiar face at this desk, is on holiday this evening. We want to wish Mark and everyone a great holiday here this evening. And one of the other familiar faces, Steve Foote, who happens to be a candidate in the Ward 6 City Council race, is not able to be here, as he is a candidate, so he wasn't allowed to be on the panel tonight. But he may come in and stop in as a guest. What's happening around the city? Mayoral election. Let's talk about that. Tom, what are you hearing out there?
Well, I've never seen more signs in the history of elections in Brockton this year. They are everywhere. There's obviously 13 candidates for Councillor-At-Large. There's 4 candidates for mayor. So those 2 races are certainly producing a lot of activity. You see people, I got so much literature in my neighborhood, all election season so far. You just see a lot of people, doing the grassroots, knocking on doors, dropping literature, putting out signs. So there's a lot of buzz, there's a lot of activity. We are in the throes, obviously, of a presidential election coming up. So people are interested in politics these days, and people are interested in what's going on in the city of Brockton. Absolutely.
And from the mayor's side, Richard, as Tom mentioned, we have 4 candidates. Obviously, incumbent Mayor Bill Carpenter is taking his 2nd term here. He is being challenged there by Jacob Taggart, along with Chris McMillan, former city councilor from Ward 7. And Christopher Hopegood Sr. Was out there. What are you hearing out there, Richard?
Well, what I find interesting about the election process this year is that not everybody is running for Councillor-At-Large. Every ward is going to have a political race, just about. It's just, and I know only in 6, 3, and 4 right now there's a primary. But what I'm seeing more of, there's more people running within the wards than at large before, and a bunch of new faces running for the mayor's slot. So
well, there are also some old faces that jump back into the race too. When you look at the Council-at-Large race, and you think of former Mayor Winford Farwell out there.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting thing to see Wynn back in, because he was the last 4-year one-term mayor. And then he got defeated by Jack Units back.
That's 20 years ago.
20 years ago.
20 years ago.
But something, we were talking about this off camera. Who knows Wynn Farwell of the younger voters? And I got to tell you, if you were to break down the voting record of baby boomers, who are us, we remember Wynn. We remember what he did when he was on the school committee, and then when he ran, when he was the mayor. So, and our voting, percentage of voting for baby boomers is a heck of a lot larger than that younger vote. So, Wynn could be a dark horse in here to make it to the final 8. I'm not saying he will, but, I'm just saying he could be.
Wynn Farwell certainly has a presence in Brockton. His family's been here for generations.
Right.
He was, as you know, sergeant on the police department.
Right.
Mayor. He was commissioner under, was it Salucci? I'm not sure.
Yeah, he was a public safety commissioner, I believe.
Public safety commissioner.
So.
I mean, so I had an opportunity to have him on my show, Common Sense, and basically, he sees a lot of changes in the city, and he certainly does not need to run for any type of a monetary reason.
Right.
He's well situated. He's doing it, for, in his mind, the right reasons, wanting to improve things in Brockton. And like you said, there are a lot of voters that certainly know the name Win Farwell. So he's
Right.
not he's not a stranger to Brocktonians. Like you said, though, maybe some of the younger voters really aren't aware of his track record.
Right.
But a lot of Brocktonians certainly know who Win is, and certainly committed a lot to public service, on the school committee, as you said, as well.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, I think all of that needs to be commended. Anybody who puts their hat in the ring has got to be commended for this. And like you said, Tom, he doesn't need to do this.
Oh,
but,
not at all.
He sees and there are some real burning issues here in the city of of Brockton that I would like to see addressed a little bit more. And hopefully, when the final election comes through, we'll be able to have a debate on the real issues. Because all of the debates that I watched and went to, I didn't see a lot of substance coming out in the discussion. Everybody wants to talk about the feel-good aspect of it, but and somebody say, well, we really need to wipe up crime and all of this. Well, what's the plan? Do you have a plan?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't know
Yeah.
yet. I'm still studying it, and I think that's, if you're going to run, then get your plan known.
I also want to pick up on the theme about the diversity of the candidates that we have on the ballot here today as well, because if you really start looking at the mayoral race, Jacob Taggart has thrown his hat into the race as a minority candidate. We have, obviously, on the Councillor-At-Large, Moses Rodriguez is out there from the Cape Verdean community. We've got Adius Pierre out there from the Haitian community. Out there, Shayna Bonds, the first female black candidate to be elected 2 years ago. Gary Keith Sr. is out there as well, another black member of the city who is also a minister in the city of Boston. So, and Dory Smith. Dory Smith is out there, does a lot of work with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in the social service area. So we have a pretty good mix of diversity that are represented here on the ballot this year.
Well, I agree with that, because I think what's happening here is that this election is now starting to take on the face of what Brockton actually looks like, which is really heartwarming for me to see after been in the city all these years. We are a melting pot of immigrants, and because all of our parents came, or grandparents came across. And it's got to take on that face of what the general public looks like.
Well, you have to understand that Brockton, as we all know, is a big melting pot from day one. The only difference today is, the ingredients in the pot are a little different.
Right.
Years ago, Irish, Italian, the Lithuanian village, Polish, Swedish, French, the French club. Now today, it's just different people coming from different places. It's always been a melting pot, but now again the pot's a little different. But that's always what made and still makes Brockton a great place, is all the diversity and all the differences, and people learn from each other. And the good thing about growing up in Brockton was that people in my lifetime, thank goodness, got along. We had, the biggest high school, the saying was, this side of the Mississippi.
Right.
And, I arrived at Brockton High School in 1979. And it was a great place. Kids got along. We, had a lot of fun. And we looked at Brockton as we were better than other communities, because we looked at Brockton High in the city of Brockton as we had so much. We never looked at ourselves as having less. We always looked at ourselves in Brockton as being the best, because no one could compete with us in so many ways.
It's interesting that you say that. My wife Susan and I moved to Brockton from Brookline. We were living in Brookline, and our daughter was in the Brookline public schools, and they weren't addressing the issues that she needed to be addressed. We bought a house here in Brockton because Susan's two sisters live here. And one of the reasons why we came here was because of the school system. And so when my daughter first went to Brockton High School, within a week they had diagnosed her immediately with the, you know, where she needed to have the help and everything else. I agree with you. And all three of my kids have graduated from Brockton High School, so I think it's...
You know, the other point that I don't want to overlook the fact that when we talk about the school committee, you know, we've got contested races here in Wards 3 and Wards 4, and even the diversity is shown there. We have Blessing Rogers competing for one of the 2 spots in the Ward 3 school committee race. And over in Ward 4, we've got Nilton Montero and Bishop Tony Branch are also competing. You know, again, expanding on that diversity of what's out there in the field today.
I think going forward, what's going to be very interesting, and Tom, you'll experience this on the school committee, you're going to have a very different looking school committee going forward.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're going to have a different person from Ward 2.
Yeah.
Lisa Plant,
Lisa Plant
is, I think she's uncontested.
Yes, she is.
So she'll be a new face, very nice person, parent of children that have one daughter that's graduated and another daughter that's attending the Brockton Public Schools. Ward 3, as we see on the ballot right now for the primary, you have, it will be a different person because Alicia is stepping down. Alicia Clark, now married Wilson, is stepping down. Ward 4, Mrs. Joyce is choosing not to run. She has been served honorably on the school committee for 10 years, and she's, I think she's had enough. She's contributed quite a bit and has decided that now is her time. You know, Ward 5 is uncontested. Judy Sullivan will join me. Ward 6, as you can see, will be a difference. It'll either be...
well, that's in the council.
Oh, that's
race,
right.
but
I'm
not
sorry.
the schools.
Right. Ward 6 is
Azak?
Joyce Azak.
Joyce
Yeah,
Azak,
Shirley's
uncontested.
uncontested.
Right.
So there's a new face.
And Ward 7 has a
And
race.
Ward 7 has a race. You know, Sully, Tim Sullivan,
Tim Sullivan
and
coming
Ray
back.
Henningsen.
Yep.
So that'll be,
Right.
you know, Tim Sullivan, who we all know was formerly the school committee person and chose to run for Ward 7.
We're going to take a break here. We had some of our reporters around the city this morning and this afternoon to gauge some of the voter turnout. They found one of the busier polling places to be located up in the Brookfield Elementary School in Ward 6, which consists of 3 precincts that vote at that particular school. So let's take a break and see what's happening.
Day citywide. However, we are at Brookfield Elementary School. Why? There are a host of candidates running for office that are here today, holding signs, doing last-minute campaigning, and we will interview each and every one of them. So, follow me.
Well, it's been a tough run. We have 3 candidates here, myself and a couple of other guys. I want to thank them for running a nice, clean campaign. It's unusual these days to see that, but we have seen that here. And I want to thank all the people behind me, my supporters who have come out, taken a day off from work. It's a tough thing to do. You got to take a day off from work and stand out here all day, but we're doing it. The whole thing is you got to go door to door. You got to talk to the folks themselves, and that's the best way to do it. You got to meet them, and we've been doing a lot of that, getting to know a lot of people in the neighborhood. I've lived here all my life, but I still am meeting new people every day. It's been great. You got to work hard, and if you don't work hard, you won't do anything for yourself in life. And so we've really been at it hard, and we've been working hard, and we hope to prevail today. And hopefully by the time you see this, we'll be in the win column. We were going door to door, and he was just sitting out front with his dog. He said the famous last words, "Oh, don't worry, he won't bite." We were able to fend that off, and the guy did take our literature, so hopefully he'll vote for me today. Just glad that the people are out voting, and everybody should do their civic duty and come out and vote. I realize it's kind of tough, you know, people are working, they have busy lives, but the polls are open till 8, and hopefully everybody gets out and votes.
When I really first decided to run, you know, my parents sort of, they realized that I was actually going to run. They're like, "Oh wow, this is something real." So we talked to people, got some advice. We went out and we went to City Hall, got the ballot forms. We went up and down the street and around the neighborhood, got people to sign, ordered some signs. You know, it sort of built up and got more organized and uniform as it went. And I mean, I'm very grateful to all the people who helped me out. And I had a lot of friends, especially over the summer, who were, I'd schedule it out a week in advance, and they'd come in after work or after I got back from work, and we'd just go hit a neighborhood, and we were able to knock everything down like that. Definitely to keep the fire station there is very important. Definitely roads as well. That's something I get from a lot of people. Some people haven't seen their roads paved since the 60s. I heard 1961, 1967, whether in the whole debate, whether this road's still private or not. There's a whole lot of things that need to be sorted out there. Definitely, definitely those. People don't like to see the taxes keep going up. But I mean, some people understand. Sometimes you gotta, because of the way the city's in right now. But if I could, I'd try to lower them. I've learned I'm getting older. I'm getting, after a couple weeks of just keep going, I'll take a nap. Never thought I'd do that in my teens, huh? But yeah, I've had a blast. I'd like to thank everyone who helped me out, everyone who everyone who was receptive at the door. Because some people just, I had one guy shout, "I'm not home." I mean, I appreciate, like, they opened the door. They opened the door, we had a good conversation. I appreciate when people do that. When you're standing outside and you're holding signs, I'd like to thank all the people who did that with me. All the people who went around with me. And all the people who, would beep or wave. Even if they don't live in the area, it's still a little nice moral boost for you.
I declared my candidacy back in November, actually late November. I was the first candidate to declare in Ward 6 as soon as Michelle Dubois won the state rep seat. And it's been a long journey. It's been an interesting journey, but a lot of fun. I've met a lot of people. It's very interesting going door to door, talking to people, answering their questions, and answering their concerns. The number one issue, it seems, here in the ward, especially here in Brookfield and also in Ashfield, are the condition of the roads. The roads are truly in horrendous shape. Not only driving on the roads, but myself walking door to door, I've twisted my ankles a couple of times. So that would be one of my priorities when I get myself elected as Ward 6 councilor. It's been a great experience. I've met a lot of people, a lot of friendly people. Most people are friendly. Most people are sympathetic to the cause, and I think I would make a great ward councilor because I'm an outgoing, friendly person. I'd like to thank all my campaign workers for one thing. Okay, we've had a group of about 20 people that have gone door to door with me, held signs at major intersections leading into the ward. I also like to thank both of my opponents, Steve Foote, Jack Lally, for a very clean campaign, very well-run campaign, and I wish them the best.
Good afternoon, or good morning. My name is Stephen Lally. I am father of Jack Lally, or John Fitzgerald Lally officially. Jack is running for city councilor, Ward 6, and he's a high school graduate, 18 years old, just graduated from Cardinal Spellman, currently attending Bridgewater State University as a political science major. A little bit about Jack. Well, number one, I did not ask him to do this. I don't know any parent who would, but Jack has always wanted to be interested, always wanted to get involved in politics. He's been interested in politics since age 11. I thought he could be maybe a Major League Baseball player, but didn't have that skill set. He's got people skills like you wouldn't believe about, and really cares about this community. He's always been interested in serving. He's been involved in some charity work, particularly with Personal Best Karate, where he got his black belt. He's a first-degree black belt, and they do a lot of charity work over at Personal Best. Yeah, I was very surprised that Jack went into this race. For a few years in a row, he said he was going to run for mayor, but I just thought it was just a young man being a young man, and we'll see what happens. And then he told me he pulled his papers to run for councilor in Ward 6. I couldn't believe it. And then I had my first, a few months back, I had my first meeting with a politician, and he told us what was involved in running for office. I couldn't believe I had to ask people for money, you know, for fundraisers and all that, but we've been able to raise money. We've bought a ton of signs. He has a lot of signs out in Ward 6 right now, and we just actually purchased another 100 signs. We've run out, so he's energized. He's doing great. At the door, you know, it's been fantastic. People are very excited about somebody young getting involved in politics, not somebody who's been in the system for too long. They just like a young person being interested in serving their community, and he's been doing great. He's had a couple of people say maybe you were too young, but I'd say 97% of the people are really for him. Every time he goes out, he comes home and says, you know, he goes out with usually one of his friends he's campaigning with, and he comes home and he says, yeah, I got another 10 signs today. It's just been fantastic. He's very excited. We've met a lot of great people in Brockton. I'm sorry to say, I was more of a commuter in Brockton. I wasn't really involved, and now I'm kind of energized myself. I'm getting to know a lot of people in Brockton, and we've been here for 18 years, but sorry to say I didn't have the political bug, but now that Jack's involved, it's very exciting. Very exciting time in our lives, and I really think he's got an excellent chance. He's got an excellent chance to win. So we're very excited.
It's been a busy day every day, very hectic. I go to work, I come home, I work a regular 40-hour work week. I have my family, getting everything together, getting all the names of everybody that I need to be talking to, finding out the streets of all the different voters, where they live, getting out signs to all my supporters. That's pretty much what's been going on since the beginning, and it's been an experience, let me tell you. I've learned there's lots of concerned residents in the city. It seems like everyone's looking for a change. No one's really sure what it's going to take to make that change happen, but I'm trying to assure them that I'll be at the forefront of making those changes. I have a strong history in criminal justice background. I work currently for the Department of Correction and Law Enforcement, so I think I know a few things about what we can do to help make the city better. And that's the main question on everybody's mind is the public safety right now in Brockton. People want to feel safe, and in order for our city to grow and prosper, we need to make this a safer place for the residents. I've learned that I'm a little bit more outgoing than I've thought, a little bit more personable. Before joining the race for Councillor-At-Large, I was never on social media or anything like that. This was my first time out amongst the whole city getting my name out, and the feedback has been positive. I can't imagine all the great support I've got from all over the city, and I'm feeling a lot of love and support out there. It's beautiful. I'd love to thank all my supporters. I'd love to thank the Massachusetts Correction Officers Federated Union. They've endorsed me from the start. They've been great help to me, my family, all the Zarellas in Brockton, all my friends, just everybody out there in Brockton supporting me. I thank you all. I can't thank you enough, and I hope we see each other November 3rd and we can get this done. Michael Zarella, Brockton City Council-At-Large.
I started my campaign in late June, kind of spontaneously. I'm still 21, still very young. It's what I've always wanted to do, but I've been knocking on doors, knocked on probably 10,000 doors in the city. It's a lot of ground to cover. I've learned that, but Brockton needs people that are going to make bold decisions, and I think that's why I'm running for Councillor-At-Large. A very, very bold decision, and that's what I'll continue to do if I'm elected. It's more and more rampant now is public safety. A lot of people want more boots on the ground. They want a larger police force, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. It's what we need, and it's what everyone wants. I've learned I can walk a lot. I've learned I'm actually pretty good at talking to people. Still being young is my first campaign. There's a lot to be learned. There's still a lot to learn now. I'm not going to go anywhere, but I've learned that I have a lot of drive and determination. I'd like to thank my family, especially my grandmother. She's my biggest supporter. Everyone in my family, though, my friends that have helped me with my campaign, and everyone that got out to actually vote today. We're expecting a very low turnout, but I have faith in the people of Brockton that they're going to come out and make the right decisions.
Well, as I said earlier, Brookfield Elementary School is the place to be today, primary election day. It was a great opportunity to meet some of these candidates, hear their thoughts on their campaign, and it was nice to hear that they thanked a lot of people and they had a lot of support. We're going to kick it back to the studio as we await our final numbers. Back to you, Larry.
Thank you, Jay, and we want to thank all the staff that was out there in the field getting those in-depth backgrounds on the candidates and the family members, as we saw out there with young Jack Lally and his father, Steve. We were looking at about a 17% turnout as of 6 p.m. according to the Elections Commission office, and they're projecting somewhere close to 21-22% turnout. I think that's a little bit higher than we saw back in the 2013 primary. Richard,
Yeah, it was approximately 20% the last time. But I just think that there's so many candidates out there, and there's so much, there's so many young candidates, as you just saw on the report, that there's a lot of people knocking on doors and out in the community. So I just think that you can't help but know there's a primary going on today. Sometimes when it's really quiet and there's not a lot of candidates, you wake up and you're like, oh, I didn't realize I needed to vote today. But I think today the word really got out there that today's a voting day.
And we had the perfect weather for today to get the
excellent.
voters out as well.
Excellent.
Joining us in studio to my left here is one of the candidates for City Councillor-At-Large, Greg Pena. Greg, welcome to the studio.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So tell us, what are you feeling about your opportunity here? As you're one of the 13 candidates who are running for the 8 slots at City Council-At-Large. So what's your sense? What's going on out there?
Today was a great. 2 years ago there were 15 candidates, but there were two vacant seats.
Right.
But today was a fantastic day. I got a lot of positive feedback, and I did the legwork for months leading up to this, and I'm feeling really positive about tonight.
Any predictions?
I'm not going to make predictions, but I will let the cat out of the bag once. I did tell Bob Sullivan I was gunning for him. I wanted number 1.
All right.
That's not a prediction. That's a goal.
That's a goal. All right. Fantastic.
What are you hearing are the main concerns of the folk as you go through the wards? Because you're running at large, and so you got to hit all 7 wards. And so I'm just wondering what you're hearing out there. What are the biggest concerns?
Public safety and economic development. People want a safe, livable city, and people want to see the city grow economically. They want to see opportunity in the city. They want to see increased revenue. Basically, what they want to see programs for everybody, but a lot of people are starting to realize we need the revenue to pay for these programs. We need the revenue to pay for these additional police officers.
You feel that the pendulum's swinging that way, that they realize we've got to find a way to pay for these services now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I've been knocking on doors since April, and that's pretty much the consensus that I've found. Is, of course, there's people, all politics is local, and when I mean local, it's their own street. But in the general sense, they realize the city needs to move forward and add some additional revenue in some way. There's a lot of disagreement on how to do that, but people realize we need to move forward.
Well, the 800-pound gorilla in the room for increasing the revenue is tax increases, and everybody always runs on this platform: no new taxes under me, no new taxes under me. And then when push comes to shove, goods and services to the people who actually need the goods and services now are suffering for it. So there's got to be a way, maybe through economic development or how else you guys are going to put this together, because if you get the chance, Craig, you're going to have an opportunity here to really make a difference here, and not just the same old rhetoric that we hear. Not that you do rhetoric, because I've known you for years and you've always been a straight shooter. So, but people do have to get their handle around the fact that if we're going to raise revenue, taxes are going to have to be put on the board.
Well, one of the things I had a conversation today with someone in local towns. It's never a question of whether taxes are going to be increased to the levy. It's a question of whether there's going to be an override.
Right.
In Brockton, we're always talking about let's not raise taxes.
Right.
So we may have a very high tax rate, but our bills are a lot lower than surrounding towns.
All right, Craig, thanks for stopping in here. I know we got a couple of other candidates we have coming in, so good luck out there tonight. We'll have the results probably in about a half hour, and we'll see where you're placed in the top 8.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
nice
for
to see
being
you
with
guys.
us.
Good job.
Coming into studio right behind Greg is actually another Councillor-At-Large candidate, Gary Keith. Gary, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Put on a mic there so people will hear you.
Jay, you can mic them. People know who you are. We already saw you on TV for 15 minutes. So don't worry
It's
about that.
the beauty of live
Geez,
TV. We love
know.
this, you know?
If you
Yeah.
see the guy sitting down here with the less hair, with glasses
Yeah.
on his head, it's not the candidate,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
Jay
yeah.
trying to fix...
So Gary, what are you
Gary
hearing
up
out
with.
there this evening? What do you feel like? You ran for a Councillor-At-Large 2 years ago, if I recall correctly.
I did.
And you did not make the cut last
not make the cut.
time, for the first time out, so this is your second
It
volley
is.
out, and what
It
are you
is.
feeling?
Actually, I feel very positive about what I've been hearing. From the moment I walked into the polls a little bit after 7 this morning, a gentleman was casting his vote. He turned around and he said, "Look at this. I'm voting for you." I didn't know who this guy was. Before I left the polls, there was like 3 more people that actually knew who I was, and I was getting messages all day long about, "I just voted for you," so I'm getting a positive feeling.
What's your motivation for running?
To save the city. You know, I think that we had a lot of people over the last 5, 10, or so years, and you just get tired of doing it. And, right now, it's my turn, Coach. Give me the ball. Let me see if I can do it.
And what do you hope to accomplish in terms of the issues that you feel need to be addressed?
Basically, public safety is number one. And I have an extensive background in law enforcement where I work with various departments. Public safety is number one. Kids programs that I think with the kids being out right now ties into our public safety. And again, economic development. We definitely need to move the city forward. Sometimes I use the analogy we need to go backwards to move forward, because I think we need to go back to the golden days of Brockton, keep an eye on that to get us back to, less crime, a little bit of a happier life.
Gary, we talked a little bit earlier in the program about the diversity of the candidates out there in the mayor's, council, and even at school committee races. What's your feeling of what's happening within the city and the number of candidates that have now stepped forward to try to get elected?
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's great to see all ethnicities coming out and being involved with the politics. Seems like everyone's getting involved, no matter what your background is, what your race is. And that's what Brockton's all about. We're a big melting pot, and it's great to see everyone involved right now, because the more diverse we have it, the more better it is for everybody.
All right. I want to thank you for stopping by, Gary, and I wish you the best of luck that you make the top 8 for the final countdown.
Thank you, Larry.
On November 3rd.
A little nerve-wracking, but let's see.
Sorry, good luck.
Thank you,
Welcome,
mate.
welcome.
Good luck.
Let's
Thanks for
let's
coming
get the
in.
mic off of Gary, and while we're doing that, we welcoming into the studio Bishop Tony Branch. Bishop Tony Branch, if I call him Bishop, would you like to be called Tony?
You can call me Tony, that's fine.
We can call him Tony. Okay. Tony is here as one of 3 candidates for the school committee in Ward 4, so I'm going to defer to Chairman Minichiello, Vice Chairman Minichiello on any questions here.
Mr. Chairman, how are you?
Tony, when did you can call me Tom.
You can call me Ray.
When did
What?
you decide to run, and what was your motivation?
I think my thoughts were probably early April after talking to folks. It is not because Patricia Joyce was doing not a good job. She's doing a tremendous job. A matter of fact, it's going to be very hard to even step into her shoes. But I wanted to get involved because people talked about the after-school programs, and they talked about neighborhood schools. A large constituency in Ward 4 is really interested in walking to schools. So I think there's opportunities for us to look at making some changes in terms of how we do implementation around the assignments of schools. So I got in the race saying, hey, 25 years in the private sector, clearly I can offer some of my skill sets in this particular race with the school committee, so I got in.
There's definitely a movement to go towards neighborhood schools, especially where we see the expense of busing students
Correct.
around. What we have is in Brockton, though, is an interesting dynamic, and that is relatives taking care of other people's children.
Absolutely.
And if you, for instance, your grandmother is taking care of you and she lives in a different part of the city, the parent is opting or trying to have their student go to that school that's closer to grandma than where they live. So that's sort of, we get into a conflict with
Correct.
parents, and,
Right.
and it's sometimes very disappointing and frustrating for the parent, because they're like, well, this is a lot easier for me.
Right, right.
But yet what you're saying is, we have people in the neighborhoods that are saying, we want our kids to have the seats in these neighborhood schools.
Correct.
And we should take priority. And some schools in certain areas have more options, or I'm sorry, more people opting for that school.
Right.
And we have that inherent conflict. We try to accommodate people to do what makes sense.
Right.
But there are some people that certainly get their second choice rather than their first, and we have some parents that are frustrated as a result. You know.
And we have to do a good job in articulating what we can do and what we can't do. The reality of it is, and you and I know, the regulations state they need to. If you're a resident of Montello Street Extension, you need to apply for a school within that particular award, if that's the way we're going to do implementation. But you're absolutely right.
So what's your feeling out there? You've been out there all day long canvassing. I know I passed you earlier this afternoon doing some lunch drives through, and
Right.
You were very upbeat then. How you feeling tonight?
Well, I want to first thank you for the roast beef sandwich and the water. It's been a very, very interesting race, and I want to say that everyone that's running we all are great candidates for school committee. But I'm feeling good this evening. I think that we ran a very strong campaign, but again, I think that all of us did. So we'll see what happens in about an hour.
All right, Tony, congratulations.
Thank you for having me.
Best of luck this evening.
Thank
out
you.
there. Thank you.
Congratulations. Good job.
Thank you.
So we're kind of turning back here, and I think we want to maybe take a little bit of this discussion over into the mayor's race and talk about the 4 candidates that we had. We do not have any numbers, preliminary numbers at this time, and as soon as our crack reporting staff from City Hall gets them into us, we'll get them to you on the screen. Mayor's race. Some might say it's a love-hate relationship with Mayor Carpenter. You know, when you look at the election 2 years ago, in the primary race, he actually was behind the incumbent Mayor Belzotti by about 860-odd votes when the preliminary was over in 2013, and he squeaked out a 55-vote margin in the general election. A lot of people say that the recent election that we had in relationship to support for the casino on the Brockton Fairgrounds was a continued mandate against the Carpenter initiatives by only winning 144 votes. When you looked at that vote tally, well, you know, 14,000 plus voters came out to vote for the casino, 148 votes were cast in, was the winning margin for that, basically 1%. So here we have a mayor who won by about 0.75% in his general election, a major initiative to support the casino by 1%. What's the feeling out there tonight?
Well, I don't know. I watched the debates, and to be quite honest with you, I don't know if this is the place to say it. I wasn't thrilled with the conversation and the discussion that was going on. People were talking about, we need public safety, we need this, we need that. When you're in a debate and you're going to talk about those issues, you've got to come up with a plan. And you've got to try to articulate what it is you want to do instead of, trying to, pander to people's emotions. Look, we all want to be safe. Look, we all want economic development. We don't want higher taxes. We really need to do something like that. But you're going to talk about that. You got to come up with a plan. And one of the things that I found in listening to this debate and watching it, I found that the incumbent mayor, Bill Carpenter, did articulate that in the minute or so that he had there. And I just wish that I would have heard that from the other candidates. I think Chris McMillan tried, and I think Jacob Tagger tried, and Chris Hopegood, they all tried. But when I see a debate, and I want to see substance in a debate, and I'm not sure I got that.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head when you were speaking to Craig Peener and the other candidates, and that is people want services. People want to improve the standard of living here in Brockton. People, as Gary Keith said, want programs for children, but everyone has come to the realization that there's a cost to that, and there's no free ride. If the city demands certain activities, certain resources for its citizens. We heard the candidates talking in Ward 6 about they need new roads. There's a lot of roads that need TLC over in Ward 6. there's an expensive price tag to that. We just saw it with the school budget. We just laid off
Oh, I know.
60-some-odd teachers, and we you know, would like to be adding teachers, we'd like to be adding programs, but there's a cost. And the candidates are going to have to come up with ways to solve that problem. I noticed the same thing you did with respect to the debate, and that is whether you agree or disagree, the mayor was coming up with, you know, his solutions in terms of how to increase revenue, where other people were throwing out what they want to do without basically saying how they're going to pay for it.
Right, I think, yeah, I agree with you, Tom, and you're going to get into a debate about that. A debate is about the sharing of ideas and plans. It's not about sitting there and
You can disagree with the
right,
plans,
absolutely.
but there's a plan. Or,
absolutely. You know, and it's interesting, we talk about, you know, increasing economic development in the city, but, you know, in the 26 years I've been in the city, I have seen us time and time again say to new economic development, not in my backyard.
Well,
We have to kind of stop that mentality and say, okay, when is not my backyard not a good thing to say anymore?
it is unbelievable that a city that is struggling as we have financially to, you know, continue to give the services that we give to our residents, to, you know, give the services that we give to our students, you know, from the educational perspective, that we have a $1 billion investment sitting on the table in front of us with 2 projects. Yes, it's the gas-fired power plant, and yes, it's the casino development on the Brockton Fairgrounds, that we have developers willing to come in and put $1 billion into this city, but Richard, like you said, but not in my backyard. Wake up, Brockton. This is the city that's got to go forward. We need to consider these alternative economic options for us to continue to provide those services and meet the educational demands that we expect out of our teachers out there.
Right, but when different, and I agree with the $1 billion, but when groups come in here to make a presentation, it really, whether they're going to get support, it depends on how they deliver that message, and if they get the facts straight, and if we stop dealing in 30-second sound bites and whatever, you know, and I know the hot topic here is the power plant. We can never have a power plant.
You know, that's not even a hot topic anymore. It's, you know, it's in the hands of the
But it
federal
will
courts.
become an issue once the election is over and once it goes
Yeah.
forward. It's going to become an issue. It's not going to go away. You know, so, you know, so let's go back and take a look at it. Did they make the right decision as to where it should go? Did we sit down and have meaningful conversations and say that we've heard all of the 100 reasons why we can't do it, we haven't heard one reason why we can do it? And I thought, and I figured, and I also looked at the casino. Now, it was very interesting where they're going to build this casino. And I'm going to tell everybody in front of God and everybody, I open up my front door and the casino is right there. And I voted for the casino because here's what I looked at. I looked at the economic opportunity, I looked at the jobs, I looked at the tax revenue, and I looked at the job placements that we're going to have there. You know, and also, yeah, I understand the traffic and I understand all of that stuff. But, you know, just maybe the plan, give the plan a real honest look-see to see whether it is going to work or not. Now, if it doesn't come through, okay, then what's going to go on the fairgrounds? It can't be a Walmart, can't be a Quincy Market. We've got a mall just down the street. So so what goes there that's going to produce revenue and produce jobs? Now, I'm not saying the casino is the answer for it, even though I did vote for it and I am in support of it. But, you know, I think we take a look back at all the times that we've had economic development in here. We were supposed to get a theater in here 6-7 years ago. At the Brockton Mall. So what did the Westgate Mall did? They were going to and then something happened. The money ran out.
The economic crash.
Well,
The economy
this was
crash.
a city that, when I grew up, had 3 theaters.
Yes, I know.
The East Side Cinema.
Yeah.
The one in back of Frank's, was it Lowe's or?
There
was one in back of Frank's.
Yeah, it was on
A small
Cardinelli
one,
Plaza.
Right there in back of Frank's near the Italian Gourmet Deli.
Right.
And then, of course, the mall had the one. You know, it's you know, the city, I think, certainly can support a theater, but you know, you need to have certainly discussions and you know, conversations with the right people and to bring these sort of fresh ideas in. I mean, you know,
Right, and-
we can't just simply sit on our hands and demand more services
Right.
without coming up with a solution. And to
Right.
be against everything makes no sense whatsoever.
Well, you know what was interesting? Excuse me a minute, Larry.
Yeah.
It was interesting, and go back to the school committee when you were talking about neighborhood schools. I remember when you and I sat on the school committee together, one of the things that we really wanted to promote out there was the neighborhood schools. We thought it would save money, people would be safe and secure, kids could walk to school, parents would do this. And now I find it very interesting that, and I've been off the school committee now, what, 4 years? So now, come full circle around, and now we're talking about it again.
Yeah, well, the motivation years ago with respect to busing people around the city was basically because there were certain areas in Brockton that lacked diversity. And they wanted basically the powers that be at the state level in order to provide Brockton with the large percentage of construction money to fully benefit the city.
The school, yeah.
They said, well, only if you basically put in a desegregation plan.
Right.
And that's basically what happened. But as we know now, the city basically is naturally desegregated. You know, the neighborhoods pretty much are diverse on their own, and we really don't need to have manipulation of the numbers in order to achieve that goal. So
It's
now,
also a program that isn't funded any longer through
well,
the state coffers either
yeah,
as well.
Sure,
It
sure.
becomes,
So, you know, again, to make sense out of, you know, having kids go to the schools near their homes, to save money on busing, to have, you know, less, you know, disorganization of the system, it makes sense now to do what should have been done a long time ago. And you know, this superintendent and this school committee, and even you know the current mayor is in support of doing what is right in order to be more efficient and doing what makes sense.
You know something, I think going forward here now, whoever wins tonight and goes forward, and to have the debates, you know, waiting for the November election, you know, and I would really like to beg the candidates, when you come into a debate, have plans ready. Let's get meaningful discussions going. If you want to increase economic development, you want to do this, you want to do that, make sure you have a plan and that you can talk about it, whether people disagree with it or not, but put the plan out there so we can have a meaningful discussion. Because these people who get elected tonight and go forward to the election, the general election in November, have a golden opportunity to really put this city in the forefront of economic development, schools, and whatever going forward for the next 2 years. So I really wish they
Well,
would.
there's no question about that, and I'm getting a signal that numbers are beginning to trickle in here. We hope to have them within the next 15 minutes of more definitive numbers for all of the contested races here this evening. You know, but, you know, when you look at alternative funding options that have happened, you know, and we talk about the initiatives, you know, our current Mayor Carpenter has undertaken, you know, the pilot program for voluntary contributions from local nonprofits, that certainly has stirred a lot of buzz around the city. Maybe not as much, you know, revenue generation that we would like to see happening, but I think it's an initiative that had to be put on the table for discussion as we move the city forward, and the new elected officials will be into that as well. I think the issue associated with the auctioning of the surplus property has proven to be somewhat successful here in the city, where parcels have sat, you know, underdeveloped or not developed at all, and you know, we've created probably in excess of about $1.2 million that's been raised. Licensing fee for the electronic billboard, something that we just recently seen out there on Route 24. Something, again, innovative, outside of the box, a little bit, you know, more. The controversial bid of the city ambulance contract, again, you know, whatever side you may or may not agree on, when that was said and done, there was close to about $1.2 million that will be coming into the city over the course of that 5-year contract. Again, a contract that wasn't put out to bid for probably upwards of 28 years. And then you're seeing some of the upkeep to the DW Field golf courses and some additional revenues with the type of events that can be held out there at DW, being able to hold events there throughout the course of the golfing season. So it may not seem like a lot of revenue to a lot of people, but ultimately in the end, it's several millions of dollars that was coming into the city that wasn't here a couple of years ago. So is Mayor Carpenter deserving of a second term? I think our voters will let us know that in about 15, 20 minutes.
Well, what I think is very interesting, after tonight, you'll have 2 candidates for mayor, you'll have 8 candidates for councillor-at-large, you'll have 2 in Ward 6, you'll have 2 in Ward 3 for school committee, and you will have 2 in Ward 4 for school committee. So, and then the stage will be set. The stage will be set for debate, for discussion, and I'm really looking forward to this. You know, having been in politics for over 40 years, and I really like the notion of debate and getting people's thoughts and ideas out there, because, you know, the stakes of this game that we play in politics is pretty high, because we're dealing with the lives of people, and we're dealing with the well-being of people, you know, so, and I think it's important. I think, you know, when we look at the crime rates, you know, I think everybody has to be involved with this. I'd like to see the was it the community policing back again?
Yep.
You know, and start doing that in the wards. I would like to see more community leaders take advantage of what's going on here. Maybe we put together a crime commission that it's made up of, you know, church leaders and school leaders and some university people and some rank and file mums and dads, and have a discussion and put together a crime commission and come up with some ideas.
And I also think as a community, we've got to recognize that we as a community have to step forward and become more participating in these type of initiatives. I had the opportunity last Thursday night at the Arnone School to attend the Sports Smart presentation that was co-sponsored with the Mayor's Office of Opioid Prevention, Signature Healthcare, and the Brockton Police Department. And here was a program that, you know, we had the ER physician, Dr. Muse, come in to talk about concussions and the impact of sports injuries and how to be careful of prescription painkillers being administered to the middle-aged and high school children. Frustrating as it was, 5 parents were in attendance that night. You know, community needs to step forward and get involved when these opportunities are out there. That's going to make us a stronger community going forward. It's just one example of where we have to wake up.
You know what I'm finding also interesting, you know, we're looking at the numbers here, and Jay got us some 6 p.m. number, that 17%, the 17% registered, we had a voter turnout. Do you know that there are 45,000 registered voters in the city of Brockton, and we only have about 17% turning out? It's got to be greater than that. So, so when you, Larry, when you talk about, you know, community involvement, with 45,000 registered voters and only 17% show up, I mean, I think we really need to think about why they're not coming out. You know.
Well, I mean, that's true, and on the bright side, I think because of the diversity that we're now seeing in the different positions that are out there for mayor, at councillor-at-large, and ward councils and school committee races, that we're actually starting to begin to see an uptick. You know, I think, you know, Mayor Carpenter 2 years ago ignited a flame underneath the Haitian Cape Verdean community out there. We saw a tremendous amount of support, you know, from those communities coming out and endorsing and supporting Mayor Carpenter. And what I believe happened is that they've woken up to realize that they can become a strong voice in the city and put forward candidates that will, you know, not only continue to help support the city, but also support, you know, what they feel are the issues for their community out there as well. So I think we'll see an uptick. I mean, even tonight, if we're talking 21, 22%, it's slightly higher than it was in 2013. So, you know, maybe we're starting to see the pendulum move back in the right direction there.
Tom, did I see you have numbers?
I have some numbers for the Brookfield School. I'll read some numbers with respect to the mayor's race.
No, we don't want to do that. We want to hold those numbers off because we want to get the official tally from City Hall. I understand we may have some more guests that enter the studio momentarily, and with that, I can look across there and I can see current City Councillor-at-Large Jay Stewart walking into the studio. As we know, Jace has performed admirably for the city as a Councillor-at-Large for the last 6 years, Jace, has it been, or 8? 6. Oh, I had it right the first time. Yeah, felt like 8.
Only 8, Jace?
Yeah. But Jace has chosen not to run for re-election and has focused his efforts on some other professional pursuits he has. But Jace, welcome to the studio.
Hey, it's good to be here.
Pleasure to have
Are
you.
you still with the Department of Education?
I am.
Great.
Yes.
Could you tell us what your role is there, and are you enjoying the position?
I love the position, sure. So I'm a special advisor to the Senior Associate Commissioner, so my work really sort of varies from day to day, but right now I'm focusing on helping to implement the park assessment, focus on curriculum and instruction, and on statewide learning standards. So just a portfolio of very interesting stuff, and my boss typically comes to me when something is of high priority or importance to make sure it gets over the finish line. So that's my role.
Well, you were certainly you're certainly a very popular person in the city, and you were very well liked on the council. What made you decide not to run this time around?
Well, first of all, it's amazing how well liked you are when you're leaving. Everybody loves me now. I mean, different factors, but I think one of the central factors is the work at the Department of Education. Like, just logistically, it's an hour and 45-minute drive. And I had been doing that for a year and a few months. And so to drive an hour and 45 minutes back to Brockton and then do functions every evening and your weekends are gone, I was physically exhausted. I think it's helpful secondly, I think it's helpful to move on, not to stay in one place for too long, particularly in politics, because I ran on a campaign of bringing sort of fresh ideas and a new perspective. And if you're there for a while, you kind of could easily fall into the rut of the system, and I wanted to make certain that didn't happen to me. And it just felt like it was time. I always struggled with being a part-time city councilor. When I was doing it full-time for almost 3 years, as you guys know, I left my role at Jobs for the Future, and I was here full-time. I really felt like a whole professional, being able to focus all my energy on the job, and then going part-time, I really felt as if it was impossible to give 100% of myself to the city, and became less and less comfortable with that, I think.
I think public service, like we've done, I think should be part of your life, but not way of life. And I think I realized after 4 years, I had enough because of the commute and doing all of this other stuff, and that just couldn't do it. Yeah. But I think you made a difference here in the city, Jason. I really do. Yeah. Not everybody's going to agree with anything and everything that you do, but it was very interesting that you never shied away from and always remained true to yourself as a city councilor, and I think that's really, really important. And I think that's the measure of somebody that you want in a decision-making role, and I think you did a really good job for the city of Brockton. Well, I'm proud to call you a friend, and I'm very proud that you're still here.
I loved every single moment of it. I'm loving every single moment of it. Absolutely no regrets. One of the best times of my life, both running for office and serving. And it's actually, people talk about, you're always going to have 50% of the people who have one opinion of you, and the other 50% will have another opinion. But I've actually discovered how to get 100%. So let me
You're leaving.
No, kind of.
Yeah, leave off.
I was thinking about the power plant issue and how, half the people loved me and the other half thought I was stupid. And then on a casino vote, half the people thought I was wonderful and half the people thought I was stupid. And the tricky part is the power plant people were the same people who thought I was stupid. So it's sort of like I've been able to circle everyone with their opinions that they love me and they hate me all at once. So I've gotten 100%.
Well, we want to thank you for your service to the city of Brockton and wish you continued success in the Department of Education. I'm sure you'll still be a voice out there in the city.
I'm staying in Brockton, and I'm working on some Brockton.
Can I have one final question? What, you know, I know that you're not involved in the campaigns or anything, but are you still hearing the same things today as you heard when you ran, or is it a different set of circumstances?
That's a very good question.
You know, because
I'd say that there is a through line of certain concerns, and then maybe there's some peppering of some new stuff. That's a good question. I need to think about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate that question.
Well, come back later on. We're here all week.
Okay. Sounds cool.
Thanks very much,
Yeah.
Jason.
Jason, thank you very much, and good luck going forward.
Take care.
What happened with that?
Who died? That me.
Who's throwing stuff?
Yeah.
at your
Equipment
car?
failure, technology happens.
Coming into the studio right behind Jace will be John Buckley, Plymouth County
Registrar of
Register of
Deeds.
Deeds. Thank you, Tom. Yeah.
I
One
see
of my
John
favorite politicians.
at least 3 or 4 times a week.
John, good to see you. Thank you for being here.
Hi, John. How
Yeah.
are you?
Yeah.
Yes.
How are you?
Good, good.
Traveling around with Mike Brady today. He's on the phone, and figured I'd come on and say hello.
Absolutely, John.
good.
Pleasure
Good
to
to-
have
it's
you
always
here.
good to have you.
So while you're traveling with Mike, and I know Mike's in a different race that we're going to have a special election for in October.
That's right.
What are you hearing around the city about the city election?
Well, I was very happy to see this morning, I voted really early, to see the number of people engaged this morning. It really seemed like a very sleepy election until this morning. And the sign holders, the people that were coming out to vote. And my wife went over to vote this afternoon. We were on our way to the Brockton High soccer game, and it was very crowded again, and people were lining up to vote. So that is great in a preliminary, because it's really hard to get people's attention
Yeah.
after the summer.
Right. Oh, God, yeah.
Absolutely. So, you know, good feeling around. I felt there was a buzz in the city today, too, when I was out and about as well, you know.
There are a lot of candidates, and that's good. It's going to bring in a whole number of different groups involved for November, and whoever makes the cut at large down to the 8 will really be running at a fast pace now.
Yep.
And I don't know, I haven't seen any real numbers yet, but we'll also have a contested mayor's election, and there's
Yep.
going to be some fights for some of the ward seats.
Some of the ward seats as well out there as
Right,
well.
and yeah, again, one of the reasons I'm traveling around is there'll also be in the ballot in November a chance to replace Tommy Kennedy, who did such a great job for us as state senator with Mike Brady, and that's kind of where my focus has been. So
Absolutely.
When
and,
are you up for re-election?
I'm not up for a number of years.
Number of years? Okay. All right.
Frank Howard taught me a trick: never tell anybody until you get there.
So this is a great election season for you.
It's very nice. I went to the girls' soccer game.
That's right.
What kind of year it was for
That's
me.
key. But in terms of today, like I was telling the gentleman earlier, lots of signs out there, lots of sign holders today, certainly bringing visibility to all the voting precincts. You know, it just seems like everyone had their people out today.
Yeah, and again, we're coming off the summer. Everyone has a great time in the summer, and we had a pretty decent start of end of the summer, rather, start of fall. And people have been taking their weekends. They're still going down the Cape. They're still doing things.
Yeah, it's been a great September.
There aren't a lot of big events like there used to be leading up to the preliminary elections, the old Lithuanian picnic and all that people would gather around. So I think it's a great, certainly a higher turnout than I would have predicted. So I would bet that Mr. McGarry's probably right on.
He's
feeling
at
good.
about
Okay.
21, 22%.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing.
And I think we're going to have time for one more quick interview. I see State Rep Michael Brady has stepped into the studio, so we're going to ask Mike to step over here.
I'll certainly turn
And,
over my
um,
microphone.
John, thank you very much.
John, thank
Always
you
a
very
pleasure,
much.
my friend. It's good to
And
see you.
Good to see you, John.
Thank you, John. And what I'm getting a signal on is right after we finish with Mike, we should have some numbers we're going to be able to share with everybody over there. So give us a couple of minutes to get those loaded up. And welcome into the studio at this time, State Representative Michael Brady. Mike, welcome. He's getting mic'd up there.
Mike getting mic'd.
Mike getting mic'd.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Welcome, Mike.
How are you?
How
Been
are
a
you?
busy day out there for everybody, I'm sure, and I saw a lot of people holding signs at the polls trying to get the vote out. It's very important on these primary elections. Sometimes the primary elections decides going forward what's going to happen. Of course, as you remember, my primary election as a state rep seat 8 years ago kind of decided the race. We did have that was in the Democratic
That
primary.
was a Democratic primary that
Yeah,
you...
it was very
you-
close. And,
Three-way race that you won by 13 and a
Four-
recount of
14, but who's
14
counting?
on the
Oh,
recount.
14, but who's counting?
14
14 votes.
I got to respect the candidates who ran in that primary and my Republican opponent. Everybody who puts their hat in the ring, you got to give credit to. It's a very important thing to do, to step up and run for any election you're doing. And I give credit to anybody who goes out and gets the signatures and gets on the ballot to run for any election. It's an important part of our process as a democracy in this country. And as is important is getting out to vote. And I did get reports tonight that we had a 20.2% turnout in the elections tonight. We always hope to get a good turnout. We hope to get a greater turnout, especially these important elections. Every election is important, but local elections with the mayor's race, the city council-at-large, and the other ward races that may be decided with the school committees and future council races as well.
Michael, you have a special primary coming up here on Tuesday, October 6th. Is that correct?
Correct, yes. Very important to fill the seat of our dear friend who departed, State Senator Tom Kennedy, who, no matter who wins that seat, it's going to be very difficult to fill his shoes. He was a great advocate on behalf of our community. He served in Ward 2 as a city councilor before I became a city councilor. And then he served in the State House of Representatives for 25 years, and then moved on to the Senate when that seat became vacant due to the passing of Frank Powers, who was our clerk of courts. Good friend Bob Creedon, who was a senator at that time, ran for the clerk's seat. Tommy Kennedy ran for the Senate seat, and I ran for the House seat. And I'm serving my 4th term as that, and I'm in the middle of a special election due to his passing, Tom Kennedy. And there's a couple other candidates in the race. There is going to be a primary, as you mentioned, Larry, October 6th.
Tuesday, October 6th, yep.
Very important. It is a special election. There's not a lot of coverage been on this race. There's been a little bit in the Boston Globe and so forth, but it's so important we get the vote out on October 6th. I ran into a lot of people today that, as I was helping out with other things in the race today and giving out coffee and so forth, people kept asking, Mike, I didn't see your name on the ballot, which is good. They were looking to vote for me, but the tough part is I wasn't on the ballot because it is a special election on October 6th.
And the difference in your race, because it is a state seat race, is that after the primary is determined on October 6th, on Tuesday, November 3rd, you'll be running against a Republican candidate. Is that correct?
Yes, and an unenrolled candidate as well.
Candidate
from outside the area in Brockton here. But again, I have to get through the primary. Don't count the eggs before they hatch. Even though I have a tremendous amount of support, we got to get everybody we can out to vote on that day. And there is a Democratic primary, so there's another candidate for that race.
Okay.
And then we have the general election on November 3rd with the Republican candidate and the unenrolled candidate.
One thing, Mike, I noticed that you do, like Honorable Senator Kennedy did, is really get out in the neighborhoods and talk to the community and really have a presence out there. I think that's something that a lot of people appreciate about how you basically followed the footsteps of your mentor, Tom Kennedy.
Yeah, as I mentioned, we all know no one's ever going to fill the shoes of Tom Kennedy, and God rest his soul, he's up in heaven looking down on us. But it's very important to meet with your constituents and work on their behalf. He was a great advocate, and he was a great mentor to myself, like an older brother, and we worked well together. We came from the same district in Ward 2 and moved on beyond that. But it's so important to work for your constituency on a daily basis. And there's a wide range of issues. You know, funding is a big issue to get revenue for your district. Schools are a big issue. We were fortunate to get 90% reimbursement to build 5 elementary schools, and you know, I served on the school committee, and then Richard Bath, who's next to me, he served after myself. We got the funding for these schools. I moved on to the city council and the state legislature, and times are good for a while, but as we know, the economy goes up and down in 10-year cycles roughly, and we reaped the great rewards of a lot of funding coming into the district. But then when I got into the State House, the so-called crash happened, and it was a very difficult time, so there was difficult decisions to be made. But we were able to continue to bring local aid home for not only Brockton, but the whole Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And as I mentioned, there's a wide range of issues. Brockton has specific issues. Public safety is an issue. The opiate addiction crisis is happening all across the Commonwealth and our country, so that's a wide issue. There was issues down near Silver Lake and Halifax, reference to the water issue, you know, Silver Lake, and then there's different issues in different communities there.
Mike, we want to wish you the best of luck, obviously, going forward into your special election on October 6th. We are getting some numbers in now we want to share with the viewers out there. We're going to start
Actually, I took a course in sign language, and he says, just keep going on
Ward
for a
4
minute.
School Committee.
Okay.
Here we go.
Okay.
I can read that from here. So we see Nilton Montero with 370 votes, Tony Branch 227 votes, and Brett Gormley 499 votes. If this is the final count, it obviously looks like Brett Gormley and Nilton Montero will be going into the general election on Tuesday, November 3rd for the Ward 4 School Committee seat. Unfortunately, Tony Branch, who was a guest here earlier tonight, did not make that final cut, and it's what elections are all about here. Nilton Montero from the Cape Verdean community. Brett Gormley, I believe, is actually the son of a Brockton
High School teacher.
Brockton High School teacher. I think Brett actually teaches over in the Boston school system right now.
Yeah. I mean, obviously those numbers are very close, so whoever is going to be the winner in November is going to have to get out there and really attract the votes that Tony Branch had, and also in the general election there usually will be a larger turnout. But it certainly is not an overwhelming mandate. Whoever's going to put in the most effort looks like is who's going to be the successful candidate.
As the vice chairman of the school committee, what would you suggest that these two candidates focus on?
Well, I would suggest that they really attend different functions at the schools, attend the PTA meetings, attend school committee meetings to know what the issues are, talk to people in the district, parents in the district. It's funny, when people run for school committee and they've never really talked to PTA members, they aren't really at school functions, and you scratch your head and say, how do they think they're going to be successful on the school committee or running for a school committee race if they're not involved with parental issues and parental functions and issues that affect kids? I've always found that puzzling, and usually those candidates don't make it to the final hurdle, over the final hurdle. It's bizarre. So, in order to be successful, you're going to have to really go to those functions where parents are at, find out what the issues are, attend the meetings, because, Richard knows this, and Michael certainly knows this. In order to be an effective school committee member, you really have to put in time, because there are so many meetings that you're going to with respect to, just general school committee meetings, PTA and PAC meetings for all the schools in your district, negotiation sessions that take place, functions that the state puts on with respect to different issues that affect funding and educational issues. So it takes a lot, and in order to be successful, you really have to do your homework.
Yeah, well, the learning curve for school committee is enormous. And somebody who's been in education for close to 40 years, when I got onto the school committee, it was a whole different set of circumstances, and the learning curve was just absolutely amazing. And you got to do your homework. And I mean, and you know something, BCA does a really good job in covering the school committee meetings. You just need to go on BCA, the website, if you want to catch up on it, and just click onto the school committee meetings. Every single school committee meeting is televised, and I think these folk really need to sort of watch those and get a lay of the land and go to the school committee.
And as we know, the school budget is the largest portion of the budget in the city of Brockton. It's so important. Local budget and the Chapter 70 money we get from the state is so important. And Tom, as you know, and Richard, you've both served on the school committee. This is the biggest portion of the budget in the city of Brockton, so it's so crucial we get the right people to do the right job in there. I've got to move on because I know we're getting numbers in from the At-Large.
I know you do, but can I put in a plug for the school department? If and when you get elected to be the senator from this district.
No, when he gets elected.
Well, we don't count this.
No, I'm with Michael on this. We're not going to count any chickens. Do me a favor. Can you do something about the formula that the state uses to allocate funds to cities like Brockton?
Oh, I'll tell you.
Because that is a real problem here.
It drives us crazy, especially when we had the situation with the earthquake in Haiti. all these new students coming into
500
Brockton.
of them, I was on the committee.
Yeah, and we
They had
didn't get
no
the
money.
funding exactly till almost a year and a half later. And we had people that are not only from Brockton, from other parts of the Commonwealth, in the same situation. We have some Haitian senators that, Linda DeCina Flores, she had representation of relatives down here, that she dealt with the same situation from Boston. We have to change the formula.
Work on the formula, please.
Yeah.
We need the money.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being here this
Thank you,
evening.
gentlemen, for having us, and I know there's some numbers coming in for the at-large race as well, and I know one of our candidates is here, so I don't want to take up too much time. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Michael.
And I
Okay.
appreciate, again, everybody who got out to vote tonight. It's so important from our district, so thank you again.
Good to
Take
see
care,
you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
Good to see you. I'm going to have to de-mic.
And coming into studio, when we exit the veteran Michael Brady from the political arena, we want to welcome a rookie, if we can, to the electoral process. Young Jack Lally from Ward 6, candidate for City Council in Ward 6. Jack, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Great to have you here.
It's good to have you here, and welcome to the welcome to the political arena. I think it's a very brave thing that you're doing. I think and we need more young folk doing exactly what it is you're doing.
Thank you.
So I think it's great. I watched your interview in here, and I was pretty impressed.
Thank you.
What's the feeling out there tonight, Jack?
Jubilance.
Jubilance.
It's pretty good. I want to thank all my supporters, all the people who helped hold signs and put signs up in their lawns, and everyone who came out to vote. I mean, even if you didn't vote for me, the fact that you voted, it's
an important message.
It's important, yeah, because you're letting yourself be heard. Not enough people do it.
But it's awfully nice if they vote for you, too.
Yeah, I would appreciate it.
So, Jack, when you were knocking on doors, and I think you probably have some of the youngest set of legs of anyone running for office this time around, you must have knocked on a lot of doors. What was on people's minds in your ward?
A lot about roads. The fire station needs to stay open. That's been
Cary Hill Fire
Cary
Station.
Hill, yeah,
Yep.
that's been back and forth there. It's not negotiable. It has to stay open. It's something very important to the ward.
You can say that. It's not negotiable.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an acceptable phrase.
Yeah.
It really isn't not negotiable. You're right. You're absolutely right.
What was the biggest surprise of the experience you've gone through in this preliminary race that you never thought would have happened?
I don't really know if I could pick one out, but I was pleasantly surprised by the amount of positive reception at the door. People who said, absolutely, we need some young blood, stuff like that. I was a little surprised. I was expecting more negative response. I had a guy tell me once that he didn't think people, he didn't think people under 25 should be allowed to speak.
Really?
Yeah. I was nope, okay. All right.
Under 25, not allowed to speak, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I could be your silent city councilor. I'll work with it.
You were a member of the Brockton school system from what, K through 8, I understand, and then you went on to Cardinal Spellman. You graduated last year.
Yep. I graduated in May.
In May. Oh, this
Yeah.
past year.
Yeah, that'd be this. Yeah.
And you're a political science major, so this
Yep.
is right up your alley. So
Oh,
you
yeah.
getting any extra credit with any of your professors?
I don't have any political science courses this semester. So it's a
Well,
mess. Doing my core requirements.
Yeah, that's, unfortunately, colleges, and I hate this because I'm a professor as well, they like to do core requirements before you go right into your major. I think that's bad. I think you should be able to go right into your major immediately. That's my feeling.
Well, this is certainly a learning experience
Yeah.
for your
Well,
profession.
In case any of my teachers are out there, no comment on the on skipping the core requirements.
Well, Jack, we want to wish you the best of luck. Your numbers haven't come in quite just yet. We'll
I know.
We'll see where they are. We don't. You
Oh,
you,
you don't
you
want-
know you know
yeah.
something? No, we don't want to know right now.
yeah.
Okay.
No, I get it,
All
I
right?
get it, yeah.
We've got viewers out there that are waiting as we're waiting. We want to get the official counts from City Hall. So hold that thought, and thank you for obviously stepping forward.
So, but yeah, I have a question. So if you get through to the final, where are you going to have your victory party tonight?
I think I'm running on fiscal responsibility.
Okay.
So I'm probably just gonna throw something at the house. You know?
He's gonna brown bag it.
Okay, you're going to brown bag it. All right.
You know, bring something
Okay.
if you want.
You know,
Order in some food.
Yeah, I got to tell you, everybody watching this interview here tonight, you've really got to applaud you what you're doing. I think it's absolutely fabulous. I really do. I've been in this game 40 years, over 40 years, and it is so refreshing to see a young person who is articulate, who's got good camera presence, and understands that some stuff is just simply not negotiable. And I think that's a really great stand. I think we need more people in politics that are willing to take a stand and answer the questions. And what I've seen tonight of you in the interviews in here tonight, I think you're doing a good job.
Thank you.
I'm rooting for you. I hope
I'm gonna try and
negotiate
negotiate as well as I can. You know, I'm gonna be you know, open to working with people. But if somebody tries to take away something important for the ward.
I'm looking at a very proud dad over there.
Jack's got a sign. I didn't know he brought it in.
All right, Jack, we got to cut
Yeah,
into
take
some
him for a
numbers,
hamburger.
so pull that off of you, and best of luck this evening, and we'll see you
Good
in
luck,
the
son.
city of
Take care.
politics here in Brockton as well.
Yeah.
We have some numbers now available in Councillor-At-Large. So if we can put those up on the screen. I can still read these guys. I don't know about you two, but we're going to see Councillor... Are these in order, a numerical order, Jay? Do you know that? But we have Councillor-At-Large ballot order. This is an order of ballot. Okay, so Councillor-At-Large Robert Sullivan, 5,041. Moses Rodriguez, 3,198. We've got Winthrop Farwell at 2023. Paul Beckner, 1,297. Adius Pierre, 1,458. Michael Zarella, 1246. Craig Peener, 1545. Shayna Bonds, current sitting Councillor-At-Large, 2332. And Susan DeCastro at 1964. These the top 8 winners? No, it's going more. Gary Keith at 1430. Trevor Packett, 761. Scott Hall, 639. And Doris Smith at 807. School Committee Ward 3, Mark D'Agostino at 655, and will be up against Blessing Rogers at 377, closely followed by Elliot Ed Miller at 369. School Committee Ward 4, we had those a little bit earlier. Obviously, Brett Gormley winning at 499, followed by Nilton Montero at 370, and Tony Branch finishing third at 227. City Councilor Ward 6, John F. Lally, 406, topping the ballot. Congratulations, Mr. Lally. Followed by Steve Foote at 384, and John Drasinkas third at 343. We look like we've got an upstart young man in the city coming forward. Congratulations. That is definitely an upset there. Back to the City Councilor-At-Large race. Robert Sullivan at 5,041. Moses Rodriguez at 3,198. Winthrop Farwell at 2023. Paul Beckner, 1,297. Adius Pierre, 1,458. Michael Zarella at 1,246. Greg Pena, 1,545. Shayna Bonds at 2,332. Susan DeCastro at 1964. If somebody is giving me the top 8, I would appreciate that very much. Gary Keith Sr., 1,430. Trevor Packard, 761. Scott Hall, 639. And Doris Smith, 807. So.
Okay. Well, we have the top 8.
We have the top 8.
Ask and you shall receive. So Bob Sullivan is number 1. Moises Rodriguez, number 2. Shayna Barnes, number 3. Winthrop Farwell, number 4. Craig Pena, 5. Susan DeCastro, 6. Adios Pierre, 7. And Gary Keith, 8.
All right. So that's any surprises from your point of view on that list there, Tom?
Well, I mean, you know, some of the newcomers, you know, Susan Nicastro,
She's a former planning board member, I believe.
Well, I mean, she's never run for office, correct?
Right.
I'm not surprised with Gary Keith, because he's run before, or Craig Pina, Wynn Farwell, Shayna Barnes. I guess the only two I would say are newcomers to the political scene in terms of running for office, Adias Pierre and Susan Nicastro. But, you know, again, it's how hard you work, and I did see a lot of presence out there for these two candidates.
I think, obviously, you know, as you mentioned, the newcomer, Adias Pierre, one of our minority candidates that is stepping forward. I think that is an indication that the minority community is awakening and recognizing that they do have a vote and a voice here in the city. And, you know, when you look at that list, obviously, Councillor Rodriguez is back, and Councillor Shayna Barnes, again, a first female minority elected.
That's certainly a diverse
council.
list of candidates in terms of you know, ethnicities. We have women, you know, so it's definitely a good mix of what Brockton is all about and what Brockton has become.
Well, I certainly think that's going to stir some excitement over the course of the next 6 weeks, and the most important race of the evening is the mayor's race, so let's turn and look and see what those numbers look like. And here we have it. We've got, obviously, coming in the first place is incumbent Mayor Bill Carpenter at 4,324 votes, followed in second place by former City Councilor Christopher McMillan. Third place, Jacob Taggart Jr. at 1,560 votes, and then Christopher Hopgood Sr. at 122 votes. So this certainly sets up a very dynamic final election for the mayor's race. Incumbent Mayor Bill Carpenter at 4,324 votes. Christopher McMillan, former Ward 7 City Councilor, if I recall correctly, at 2,982. So I think that we will have a very, very interesting contested race here for the mayor's office going forward. Tom, any comments there from your perspective?
I think obviously the mayor being in office as the incumbent is the top vote getter. That makes sense to me. Chris McMillan is certainly very well known in Brockton, you know, was city councilor for a number of years. So I'm not surprised. You know, Jacob Taggart has run for office before. There was a lot of activity. I saw a lot of signs, but you know, I think that Chris McMillan has had a you know, a track record in Brockton, and I think people in Ward 7 certainly thought he has done a good job when he was city councilor. So I'm not too surprised at that. What's going to be interesting, however, is, you know, if you look at the vote number, you know, where are the voters going to go who voted for Jacob Taggart? Where are the 122 going to go who voted for Mr. Hopgood? So the candidates are going to have to vie for those votes.
Well, there's Richard.
No, I fully, that's the first thing that I looked at, Tom. You know, was there a clear mandate here? Was there a clear win? You know, was there a clear 60% for the mayor? Well, no, there wasn't, because I think if you add up Taggart's votes and you add up Chris McMillan's votes, you've got almost a 50-50 split there. Okay, so, and it may be those two numbers combined are a little bit more than what the incumbent mayor got. So their work, the mayor's work is cut out for him. The work has just begun. He's got to go and court those votes, and then Chris has got to do the courting too. So, you know, given these numbers here, I think you're going to have a pretty close race going down the pipe, and I think it's going to depend on how well that you know, they can draft the other supporters, you know, from Taggart. Taggart's the key. Taggart's the key. He's got, what,
Well, there's
1,500 votes?
1,500 votes that,
That's the
you know,
key.
in the primary, and then traditionally what you're going to see in a general election is you're going to see that 20% that we heard State Rep Brady mention, that was 20.2% voter turnout today, will probably, you know, expand to something in the area of 35, 37%, you know, come the general election. I think your numbers are actually very, very, you know, close, or your analysis of the numbers. The city is known for close races. You know, again, you know, the mayor, let's put it this way, the incumbent mayor here, you know, certainly has won by, I think, about 1,350 votes over the second place candidate, you know, 43 to 29.
But that still, that still leaves a whole bunch of other votes that he's, and I'm not saying that he's going to do that, but I got to tell you, in the last couple of elections, well, the last mayoral election was tight, but the mayoral election prior to that, I think Linda Balzotti won walking away, and then when she beat Jimmy Harrington the first year that she ran, Jim threw the hat in like 20 minutes after the numbers were in. So I still think the mayor has got an uphill battle here to go ahead and get these.
And we're coming down to the end of our program, so I just want to recap very quickly for you. In the mayor's race, going into the general election, we'll have Mayor Bill Carpenter being challenged by former Ward 7 City Councilor Christopher McMullen. In the Councillor-At-Large races, we have three current sitting Councillor-At-Larges, Bob Sullivan, Moses Rodriguez, and Shana Barnes, and the other five candidates that will be fighting for one of those four seats, Mr. Farwell, Mr. Pena, Mr. Pierre, Mr. Keith, and Ms. Nicastro. So that sets up a really interesting election. In the Ward 6 City Councilor, I think the surprise of the evening is young Jack Lally.
I think it's great.
Took the top vote. I think that's exciting for all of us here, closely followed by lifetime resident Steve Foote. And over in the Ward 3 school committee race, we have Mark D'Agostino going against Blessing Rogers. And in the Ward 4 school committee race, we'll have Nilton Montero against Brett Gormley. On behalf of all of us here at BCA, I want to thank Jay Miller and his crew for the fantastic job they do in getting out there in the streets and getting us the information, keeping us live on camera here. To my left, Richard Bath. We drug him out of the archives of the political library here to be with us tonight. And as everyone knows, Tom Minichiello, our Vice Chairman of our school committee and Ward 1 school committee representative. On behalf of all of us here at Brockton Cable Access, thank you, and we hope you enjoy these results.